Good morning, Mets fans, and happy hump day. It is a Wednesday edition of Driving with Mr. Met. I am Mr. Met, and after a 4-game set over the weekend with the comparable, at least in terms of the Mets are concerned, Cincinnati Reds, the Mets moved to Chicago, where they faced a team that is clearly in contention for not only the National League Central Division crown, but also the pennant and even perhaps the World Series. And it was an obvious mismatch from the get-go. The Mets and their AAA lineup did not fare favorably against the Cubs. Robert Gsellman was on the mound last night for the Mets, and he had a shaky first 3 innings at best, but he was able to finagle his way through trouble and keep the Cubs off the board until the 4th, when the proverbial wheels fell off the wagon. And Gsellman ended up giving up 4 runs, I think, or maybe it was 5. It doesn't matter. He just wasn't very good, and that's been a pattern for Robert. And I'm wondering whether last year was an absolute anomaly, and we got the best of what Gsellman was ever going to be in 2016. Maybe that's very well the case. Maybe he's a long reliever at best going forward in his career, and that's not the worst thing to be. But you know, it's sad to see a guy who showed so much promise last year just completely be unable to recapture any of it just a season later. So Gsellman was not good. The bullpen was not good last night. Home runs abound. And you know, it's funny, over the weekend I commented on Twitter that that Josh Lewin had jinxed the Mets, because the beginning of the game, or toward the middle of the game, I think it was on Sunday, it was DeGrom's game, and at the sort of beginning of the game, they made a comment how Josh made a comment about how the Mets bullpen has been the best in the National League, and they've been so much better since the break. And I think they even did that on SNY over the weekend as well. But then shortly thereafter, of course, on Sunday, the bullpen completely fell apart. That was coupled with the Lewin jinx, when he said DeGrom hadn't had a no decision in forever, and ended up taking a no decision. So I'm blaming Lewin for that. But again, the bullpen was not good yesterday. And you know, there was no offense really to speak of. Jose Quintana kept the Mets off the board. He pitched very well. And you know, it is what it is. You can't win them all. And in the Mets case, you can't win many of them. So back to 18 games under 500. Go the Mets. Tonight, Matt Harvey takes the mound. And again, you know, looking back at what he did in his last start against the Reds on Friday night, where for the first time in seemingly years, I could sort of say it was a happy Harvey day. I don't know that Matt's going to have as much success tonight against Chicago. The Cubs lineup is very good, as we all know. They hit home runs, so it's going to be up to Harvey to locate his pitches, try not to get too cute, and try to pitch to contact, and that's what he did against the Reds. And again, the Reds have a very good lineup, so we'll see if Matt can navigate through the Cubs lineup like he did through Cincinnati's. It'll be interesting to see who catches Harvey tonight. I suspect we're going to see Plawecki behind the plate, because d'Arnaud caught last night, and it seems like they're doing every other day at this point. So I'll be curious to see if Plawecki is able to guide Harvey through a good start and use his pitches, and see how he receives Harvey versus d'Arnaud. Going forward for 2018, you know, one of the big question marks is the catcher position, and it has been a question mark for this team really for the past couple of years. Despite showing a lot of promise, d'Arnaud has never really fulfilled any of that. So, and I've always felt the same way about Plawecki. So now going forward, Sandy has basically said, I'm confident that these two can split the time behind the plate. You know, basically that we have our solution in-house for catcher going forward. And I'm curious to see which of the two end up basically grabbing that brass ring and running with it. because right now it's an open competition between the two of them. And which one is going to be the everyday catcher next year? I don't like the idea of a total platoon behind the plate. I just don't like it. I really feel, as far as pitching staffs are concerned, they need to have a consistent receiver behind the plate. They don't need to be worried about, oh, I have Plawecki today, oh, I have d'Arnaud today. It needs to be consistent. And so I'm really hoping that that the Mets are able to make a decision between their two catchers and see which of them ends up getting the bulk of the playing time. I don't see it being a 50-50 split next season, even though it has been this season, really, for the last few weeks. Anyway, that's going to wrap it up for us today. I appreciate your watching the video as always. If you're not already doing so, please follow me on Twitter at Mr_Met. Oh, and one more thing, I will not be back tomorrow with a video unless it's very late. I'll be out of town and be in a rental car, which won't have the pretty little connection that I have here to mount my phone. So probably no video tomorrow. But anyway, thanks for watching again, and as always, let's go Mets.